Good afternoon and welcome to Cengage. We are thrilled to be here today and excited to be hosting the Governor, Secretary Acosta, the leadership team from Apprenti. My name is Jim Chilton. I'm the CIO here at Cengage, and I'd like to take a minute and tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. First of all, we're a global education and technology company that's focused on delivering learning digital solutions in 5 distinct markets: higher education, workforce skills, secondary education, research, and English language teaching. One of the things that makes us special is that we've spent the last 100 years with our learning products being used by millions of people throughout the world. That's something we're particularly proud of. And if you look and feel the culture of the company, one of the things that you would hear and see is that we are a learning-first company. You'll hear that all the time. We'll often also say that we are a company of learners built for learners. And we actually believe that. But one of the things that we're facing right now is that we are leading a transformation in our industry. And that transformation is dependent on technology. That's at the core of the transformation. And the enablers are technologists. And it's probably no surprise to you that finding technologists, recruiting them, retaining them, developing them is really, really hard and really challenging, not just here in Boston, in the entire country, and arguably the world. So about 4 years ago, we started a partnership with a company called Apprenti. And in that time, we've added 14 apprentices to the Cengage family. Many of those apprentices are on my cybersecurity team. Matter of fact, 2 of them are here today, Valerie and Tom. And when you look at the contribution that they've made for us, it is just as valuable as all the other technologists that we have in the company. Apprenti has done something special. They've opened up opportunity in the Boston and Massachusetts area, and they've strengthened the talent ecosystem for which we all depend upon. And that matches really, really well with the things that we're doing here at Cengage around education for employment. And you bring those 2 things together, and we are having amazing results. We're quite proud of what we're doing. We need to encourage more of you to do that. So, what is clear to us is that the apprenticeships is a critical to future employment and workforce engagement going forward. Together, we are changing people's lives for the better, and you don't get to do that every day. So if you think about the business challenge that we're faced with in transformation and the things that we're trying to do with the people that can help us, we're really, really excited about that. So, at this time, it's my privilege to introduce Governor Baker to talk about why we're all here today.
Thanks, Jim. So good afternoon, and I want to thank Jim and the team here at Cengage for hosting us today, and I especially want to thank you for your participation in LWD's apprenticeship program. One of the things we talk a lot about in workforce development are programs at work, and this program in particular has shown enormous promise over the course of the several years that it's been in operation, and in some respects the 2 biggest drawbacks it had have been availability of resources and availability of participants. One of the things that happens when a program like this one starts to succeed, thank you for being here, is you end up with a different problem on the other end, which is availability of companies that have an opportunity to participate. And having Jim and the folks at Cengage engaged in this and able to start talking to others about why it would be important for them to participate is a critically important piece of this puzzle. The more employers we can get to engage in this, the more opportunities we're going to create for people to take advantage of this program and to be able to use this model to further advance their own careers here in the Commonwealth. As Jim mentioned, there are 14 folks who've been through this program since 2019. The vast majority of them are women and people of color. The initial cohort has completed their training, and additional apprentices are currently being trained now. They also train apprentices in competitive fields like software analysis and IT support to go along with the work that these folks are doing in cybersecurity. The average salary for the folks that are participating in this program before they started the apprenticeship program was around $30,000 for those who completed the program and are converted to full-time employees at Cengage. The average salary is almost $65,000, which is obviously a very significant increase with plenty of upside opportunity going forward. The model works. It provides workers with very valuable skills and experience in a compressed time frame, which enables them to move up the economic ladder, and it helps employers grow and train and retain homegrown talent, especially at a point in time when many employers are looking for talent to deal with open jobs as the economy continues to reboot in a post-pandemic environment. And that's why apprenticeships are one of several job training tools that our administration is focusing on as we seek to strengthen our workforce throughout this economic recovery. And it's why we filed legislation to invest about $240 million to expand apprenticeships, English language learner programs, rapid reemployment opportunities, and a whole series of other job training opportunities for people here in Massachusetts. And it's why we filed it when we filed it, which at this point was over 2 months ago. We propose to use these funds as part of a larger initiative to turbocharge our existing job training programs to basically make sure that we did everything we possibly could here in the Commonwealth to create opportunities for folks as we continue to see the economy recover, but in addition to that, as we come to the end of some of the emergency unemployment programs that were operated jointly between the state and the feds, but financed primarily by the federal government. Sometime this fall, about 300,000 people will lose those enhanced unemployment benefits when they end the week of September 4th. We think it's critically important that we do all we can here in Massachusetts to make sure people have opportunities to find their way back into the job market. This is one of many. And many people have. In June, our unemployment rate fell below 5% for the first time in a very long time. And as we approach that September deadline, we're working with the employer community to try to connect as many folks who are looking for work with folks who have open job opportunities. Secretary Acosta and her team are planning a statewide virtual job fair from August 16th through August 20th, where workers will be able to virtually connect with employers from across the Commonwealth. We're contacting current unemployment claimants to encourage them to attend the job fair and to connect with other career service opportunities, and also to work with the employer community to do all we can to spread the word on the available opportunity associated with this job fair. Secretary will talk more about this in a minute, and you can learn more about the job fair at mass.gov/job fair. Events that connect workers with open job opportunities is one piece of the puzzle. But we need to take a comprehensive approach so that we can strengthen our workforce for the future. We also need to get workers the skills that will help them connect with the good-paying jobs that are available here in Massachusetts, and especially those in high-demand fields. And that, again, is a big part of why we put a $240 million proposal in front of the legislature and hope and anticipate that at some point we'll have an opportunity to put those dollars to work on behalf of the people who are looking for work here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The federal government obviously sees value in these programs and Massachusetts' approach to expanding them. Earlier this year, we applied for and received a $4 million grant from the feds to expand our apprenticeship programs based on what they'd seen with the work we'd done so far. It has a particular focus on creating training and employment opportunities for communities hardest hit by the pandemic. That's exactly where we think we should be sponsoring a lot of our efforts and our programming, and especially working in conjunction with people of color, folks with disabilities, and also working moms. All communities that in many respects had the toughest time during the course of the pandemic. It's also targeted towards some of those high-demand fields we know we have here in Massachusetts: healthcare, clean energy, IT, and advanced manufacturing. The grant will enable us to connect with about 500 individuals and to connect them with employment through the apprenticeship program over the course of the next several years. The federal grant will give us the ability to hit the ground running, but obviously we believe there's much more that we need to do. We released a Future of Work report about a month ago, which outlined some significant long-term job training needs that we here in the Commonwealth and the people of Massachusetts are going to face. The report concluded that somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 people may need to transition to different occupations or occupational categories over the next decade, primarily as a result of the acceleration in the way people work, how they work, and what jobs are available that was brought on by the pandemic. The report makes clear that Massachusetts is poised to see growth in our healthcare space, our life sciences, and in our technology sectors. And they're exciting fields that have lots of good paying jobs and opportunities, but it's going to be critical that we do all we can to make sure that people can access those skills and those fields as they enter back into the workforce. And that's why the job training funds generally and the ARPA proposal in particular is so important. We believe this is both a short-term need, but ultimately will be a long-term need as well. And we also believe that it's important to work on what we've said before, which is if you have programs that work, try to do more of them. And clearly, this apprenticeship model has proven on the limited basis to which it's been implemented so far to be very successful. And we really do hope we have an opportunity to turbocharge it and dramatically expand its footprint here in Massachusetts as we work to help people find their way back to work, and especially into jobs and opportunities that they can call a career. And with that, I will turn it over to Secretary Acosta to talk a little bit more about the details around all of this.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. On this gorgeous, very warm day. Thank you, Governor. And thank you, Jim, for having us here today. I remember standing right there in 2019 when we launched Apprenti here in Boston, and Cengage was one of five of our initial companies that just jumped right in to take advantage of this incredible opportunity. And I could not be happier with the way the program is going. I need about 10,000 more gyms in the Commonwealth to make sure that we are taking up the talent that's in our waiting list right now for Apprenti. We have an incredible pipeline of people that are waiting to be trained and waiting to work in your companies. And I can't tell you how many times I hear from employers that they are looking for people, they can't find people. We're offering you an opportunity here, especially in the IT space. If you are looking for anyone in the IT space, please contact my office, and I'd be happy to connect you to Apprenti, or contact Apprenti directly, because we have talent just waiting for you. I want to recognize Dan Weigel and Ethan that are here from Apprenti, that have been partners with us from the very, very beginning. And again, very happy that you have traveled from Washington to be now in Boston as another home for this incredible program. You know, as the governor mentioned, we are preparing right now for 3,000 unemployed workers to lose their federal unemployment insurance the week ending September 4th. This is an unprecedented reality stemming from pandemic-related challenges that lasted for over a year. My office is fully engaged in this reality, and we have amped up our efforts to help people get back to work. It's important to know that there are about 200,000 jobs available across the state, and we are committed to connecting the unemployed and underemployed to businesses and organizations that have good quality jobs. We created a new reemployment center that opened on August 2nd in Boston, offering appointments to help answer any unemployment benefits questions and to connect job seekers to the many services available. We have been actively engaging with both unemployed workers and our employers through emails, webinars, social media, and our website. And as the governor mentioned, we are about to launch the biggest job fair in the state's history, the week of Monday, August 16th. The Mass Hire Massachusetts Virtual Job Fair is a free 5-day event that will directly connect job seekers to employers. And I'm very happy to say that as of this morning, we have almost 1,000 employers already registered and almost 4,000 job seekers already registered. And we're going to continue to make sure that we get even more. Those numbers are increasing by the minute. In addition to these recent efforts, longer-standing initiatives like our apprenticeship program show value for both employers and workers. The Apprenti program here at Cengage is an excellent example, and this is why I'm so glad to be here today. The governor talked about the impact of the program for Cengage. The results are life-changing for the unemployed and underemployed, which we know are overwhelmingly Black, Latinos, and women. To all of you at Cengage, I thank you for participating and providing opportunities to these apprentices. The role Apprenti plays here at Cengage and beyond is critical. Since we began our partnership in 2019, Apprenti has registered 83 apprentices. 84% of Apprenti's recent graduates are Black, Latino, women, and veterans. And while for our apprenticeship program overall, the top occupations still are in the trades, electricians, carpenters, plumbers, and pipe fitters, significant efforts to expand technology, manufacturing, healthcare, and now even biotech and finance apprentices are all happening. These efforts are possible through our partnership with Apprenti, who has enrolled apprentices at Eversource, Harvard, Liberty Mutual, Mass General, MIT Lincoln Labs, VMware, Wayfair, and right here at Cengage. The $4 million grant the governor mentioned from the U.S. Department of Labor will enable partners like Apprenti and Cengage to access additional training funds for apprenticeship programs in the tech sector. More training opportunities for software developers, cybersecurity analysts, and IT business analysts will be available. Such high-demand jobs are essential in our efforts to provide workers with transformational opportunities in the tech industry. While these efforts are impressive, we can do much more. I recently testified before the legislature about the importance of investing in our workforce, right now and in the future. The administration's proposal of a $240 million workforce investment from the American Rescue Plan Act will help 52,000 unemployed and underemployed workers through our existing programs. As demonstrated today, these existing programs are proven and successful. This $240 million investment will provide real and life-setting consequences, creating a more equitable and resilient economy. Thank you, and now I will turn it back to the governor.
Thank you, Secretary. And again, Jim, thanks to you and your team for your support of this program. Questions? Anybody got an on-topic question? You guys must have done a heck of a job explaining the program. Okay.
In light of the mass communities implementing mass mandates, I know you have been asked this before. Do you foresee any situation of this, something like this coming from the state level?
I think communities are doing exactly what we hoped and anticipated that they would do, which is making the decision that makes the most sense for them. The Commonwealth of Mass has the second highest vaccination rate in the country, and depending upon how you do the math, we're somewhere between 15 and 20 points better than the national average when you look at the percentage of kids between the ages of 12 and 19 who are vaccinated. We have dozens and dozens of vaccination clinics set up in conjunction with school departments and with cities and towns between now and the time school starts and into the beginning of the school year. And I fully expect you're going to have communities that will probably be north of 80% of their kids at the 7 to 12 grade level will be vaccinated by the time school begins. With respect to kids from K to 6, we have a strong recommendation out there that communities do mask those kids because at this point in time, vaccines aren't available to them. We expect and anticipate at some point this fall, based on what the feds have been saying, that there will be an EUA, an emergency use authorization issued for vaccines for kids in that category. And at that point in time, we'll do everything we can to help school districts and kids and families who want to get vaccinated. We've also made our pool testing program available, which was a big success last spring. About 1,000 schools participated in it. We're making that program available to any school district and any school in Massachusetts, public school, that wants to participate. And I think you put all those things together, and we are perfectly positioned to make sure that kids and adults will be safe when they go back to school, and we fully expect everybody to be in person.
Acting Mayor Cheney today to do a mandate that all 18,000 cities and villages be vaccinated. Will the Commonwealth of Massachusetts be doing that as an employer?
I think we're talking to a lot of different folks about a variety of approaches to this. We've said for a long time that our objective on vaccinations is to do everything we can to make it as easy as possible for people to get vaccinated. That strategy has worked. More than 80% of adults in Massachusetts have at least one shot, and as I said before, we're the second best, we're the best by a mile among the big states, but among all states, we're the second best in terms of vaccinations, and we continue to vaccinate a significant number of people every week. And that strategy of making vaccines available wherever and whenever it suits people has proven to be an effective strategy, and I think that positive incentive approach has worked well for us.
Is 80% good enough?
People have asked me before sort of what's the end game, and the end game is more than yesterday. I mean, in a perfect world, I would like to make sure that everybody in Massachusetts has the opportunity to get vaccinated, and I hope we come up with a variety of approaches and strategies that makes it possible for them to all follow through and do it. The vaccines work. The vaccines work. I can't emphasize this point enough. They were put to, I think in some respects, Provincetown was as big a test as you could possibly put a vaccine through. The significant number of people who were there were vaccinated. It was an enormous crowd on a 3-day rainy weekend in Provincetown, where everybody talked about the fact that it was a lot of close quarters in restaurants and bars and households. And yet, in a cluster with more than 1,000 people, only 7 people were hospitalized, and 1 person died, and the person who died had a lot of complexities. And I think in some respects, the vaccines have proven their effectiveness, and we should do everything we can to encourage people to get vaccinated.
What are you hearing from the command center in terms of the Delta variant here in Massachusetts? Every day we're hearing it's going up.
Yeah.
We're not like some of the southern states and other parts of the country.
We have the second lowest hospitalization rate per capita in the country, which is actually better than we were last week. And we have, and we're in constant contact with our colleagues in the healthcare community about what's going on and what they're seeing every day. We continue to have case counts that are among the 10 or 12 lowest of any of the states in the country. We pay a lot of attention to those numbers, as we always have. But the other thing I would point out here is the more we get people vaccinated, the proxy of case counts relative to hospitalizations and deaths changes. If you get people vaccinated, there will be people who will test positive, but they're not going to get as sick as they would have if they weren't vaccinated. And I think in some ways, the most important thing we need to focus on is continuing to get people vaccinated. And the fact that we've actually seen a bit of an uptick in our numbers of first doses over the course of the past 10 days to 2 weeks is a good sign, because the other thing I would say is in Massachusetts, and again, this is a big shout out to the people of the Commonwealth, folks in Massachusetts who get a first dose almost always get a second dose. We have a very high take-up rate among those who got the first dose. What was the other half of that question? Did I?
You pretty much touched on it.
Okay.
What are you looking at? What factors are you looking at that if that changes, then the law will change?
Well, I think the most important thing we need to do, not to break the record here, but is to focus on getting people vaccinated. The vaccines have proven that they work, and I really would like, by the way, to see the federal government acknowledge the fact that after 400 million doses and all of the evidence that's out there about the efficacy of these vaccines, I would really like to see them give them a final approval. I know for many people, in fact, one of the leaders at the Mass Nurses Association was quoted when asked how they would feel about a mandate, said, until we see the federal government issue a final approval, that's going to be something that we're going to have a problem with. I think there are a lot of organizations out there that are waiting for the federal government to take that final step. And I think it would make a big difference in how many of them think about about the questions associated with vaccinations generally. And I think it would make a big difference to a lot of the people that we talk to with our door-knocking exercises and a lot of our community-based vaccine clinics. I think you asked me about the feds? Give me the question, Steve. It started with the feds, didn't it?
Well, yeah. You answered so many things.
Yeah.
It was just,
I guess what I would say is that from our point of view, hospitalizations, vaccinations, deaths, cases, we track them all, and we pay a lot of attention to them. One of the reasons we made the decision to mandate vaccines for workers in long-term care facilities was we started to see cases creep up among folks who are in, I mean, we have very high vaccination rates both among residents and staff in long-term care. We're somewhere in the high 70s, I think, on the workforce, and we're in the low 90s or the high 80s on the residents. Those are among the highest numbers in the country. But with the Delta variant, one of the things we did see was after several months of very little infection rates, we still survey, we still test on a pretty regular basis inside long-term care facilities on a surveillance basis, and we went a long time there without seeing much of anything in terms of new cases. We did start to see some cases. They were almost inevitably brought into the facility by somebody who worked there. And because those are among the most vulnerable people in the Commonwealth, those are in long-term care, we made the decision to require, and we talked a lot to the senior care organizations, we talked to the unions. SEIU obviously has a big presence there. We really appreciate the fact that they support this. We made the decision to implement a requirement that if you work in a long-term care facility, if you do contract work in a long-term care facility, we expect you to get vaccinated, fully vaccinated by, I think it's the 10th of October. So basically, we're going to be very aggressive about the places and spaces where we believe we have the most significant concerns. I mean, one of the reasons we talked about a heavy recommendation on masks for people indoors, if you are somebody who is vulnerable to the vaccine, or you're going to spend time with somebody who's vulnerable for the vaccine, is because that is, in many respects, the thing we want people most focused on, which is vulnerability issues associated with the populations that we come in contact with. But the big message is always going to be, we want to do everything we can to get more people vaccinated, because that is, in many ways, one of the surest and best ways somebody can protect themselves, their family, their coworkers, their friends, and their neighbors.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks again for coming, and thanks again to Jim and the gang for their work, and congratulations to our graduates. And we look forward to continuing to expand this program going forward.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah?